Hello VRay users, Alex here, your VRay guide, and today I want to show you how to use HDRI lighting for interiors. I had few requests during our VRay interior workshop to show how overcast and dusk illuminations can be executed by using 3ds Max and VRay. And now I want to show you a really quick ways. There's not much parameters to control, but it's very powerful tool to get some nice ambient feeling. Okay, so first I want to create a VRay light as a sky dome, and I'm also going to deactivate my sun. So I have here my sun. I can actually even delete it. I don't need it for this purpose. And now I'm going to place VRay light as a sky dome. It comes as a plane, but you can set as a sphere, mesh, disk. I'm gonna use sky dome as a half sphere to cover the entire scene. Now in viewports we need to, in options, we need to enable invisible because we don't want to see it, otherwise it's gonna block. So I'm gonna click C right here and scroll down where the texture, we're gonna click and select VRay HDRI, click OK. Now we can go into our editor slot and drag and drop this as instance. Now here we can go and load some maps. So for instance, let's try this one. I'm using Peter Guthrie's HDRI that I bought a few of them. So sun and clouds. And what else? We need to have a really quick render setup. So just make sure you guys don't go really high with your radiance map. I'm using very low, 75, 35 to give me nice GI without any blotches here, so enough subdivisions and enough interpolation samples. Subdivs on the light cache is 1000 because I'm using 1000. Height is actually 6. I can go lower than this. I can go actually around 800. I don't need 1000. It's gonna go a little bit faster. Adaptive sampler 4.5, really low. Noise threshold somewhere around 0.1 or 0.008 as I did, and all the rest is by default. Okay, I'm gonna use exponential here with gamma 2.211. If I'm getting overburned areas, I can reduce the bright multiplier. So yeah, that's about it. Now we can go and click test render and see how it goes. So by light cache we can already see that the presence of this HDRI is not that spectacular, so we need to see what's going on. Mapping, we forgot to put this on spherical. Gotta be spherical. I think this is the reason why it's not rendering properly. And we have the processing here, overall multiplier and render multiplier. So the overall, I'm gonna boost it up a little bit, about 5. We can do the same by using VRay light options here, multiplier. But actually I like just to change one parameter to see where this thing is going. So let's click render. Alright, the render is done. Pretty cool stuff. We're getting really nice soft shadows here on the sides and very soft illumination. But the actually sun is coming right to left, and I would like to have it from the other direction. So what I need to do is go and rotate my HDRI 180 degrees. So we have the horizontal rotation here. That way I'm gonna flip the whole image, and let me save it with a different name and render this one, see how this goes. Alright, this render is also done, and we can see that we're getting our sun at the right position and even some really nice soft shadows coming through. And that's actually not really overcasting, but it kind of helps to create this natural effect. Why don't we go and see what other options we have in our HDRI control here. So for instance, if you do need to get sharper shadows from your HDRI images, you can just go and reduce the inverse gamma right here in the color space. So let's put 0.7 and try to render just this region here and see how this little change in inverse gamma is going to affect our shadows and contrast of HDRI in general. Alright, we can see really bright exposure. So what it does, it's also by adding contrast, it's also adding exposure. So I'm going to reduce this back to 1, the overall multiplier, and hit render one more time. Now the exposure that we're getting is much better now, and you can see that the shadows are being very pronounced. This actually have much more beautiful effect, lighting effect in the scene. We're getting those really nice bounces of yellowish picking up and going, spreading all the white cloth. So that could be good, but it's not overcasting. So let's go and try other HDRIs to see how we can get nice overcasting results. So how about this 839? Let's open it, and as everything's set, let's keep the inverse gamma, the contrast somewhere here, and try to render by saving a different name so we can compare it later. Just because it's sunset and it's dark, the entire image is getting really dark. So what we need to do is to increase our multiplier here to about, let's put 7 and try to render. Alright, so we're getting in our reflections here really overexposed results in the glass. So what we need to do is to go and lower our render multiplier to about 0.1 and click render one more time. So now we're getting darker results. And now here, after achieving this, I'm going to scroll down to my inverse gamma and increase the contrast a little bit, and it will pop up the exposure. Alright, pretty interesting image, a little bit dark, but if we would use some interior lights, we could create really nice, interesting atmosphere. Okay, so still HDRIs are good, but sometimes they are not providing enough volume light. So in that case, and in many cases like those, what I would actually do is go outside and position another VRay light outside my window, rectangular, something like this, just to cover my window natural light simulation. So about 150 and 50, because my window is small. I'm gonna rise this thing up and give it higher multiplier. Now the color of this light should more or less work with the colors of your scene, whatever you're having. So I'm having kind of bluish purplish sunset, so I'm gonna work with colors somewhere here. Alright, pretty good stuff. We can see that this light actually added and started directing more light into our scene, so maybe it's not enough 100. Let's put 300 And let's try some other HDRI. This blue looks good. Why don't we try that one? We're gonna leave everything as it is, and let's save this with a different name. Click render, and we can see that this color is adding a lot, but it's not really working with the same color as this bluish illumination. So what we need to do, I'm gonna click escape, and I'm gonna change this color to be blue. And let's click render again. Now this color is much colder and it works much better with the entire scene by providing a hotspot. So let's let this render go through and see what we get. Okay, pretty interesting lighting effect, and I think the main source is actually coming again from the other direction, and I probably need to flip the HDRI, rotate it 100 degrees again in order to match it my window. But besides that, I like the definition here in the cloth and the couch, and we're getting those little shadows, which is pretty cool. So the combination of blue and the natural color is working here. Let's try to open those in Photoshop and see what we've got so far. Alright, so pretty cool stuff. What I like to do always to add some auto curves and auto levels and some contrast, also auto mode. It looks interesting. Of course, very low quality, we can see a lot of grain and stuff, but interesting result. Let's do here. Here also interesting compared to this. Let's try that one. Alright, I think this looks the most beautiful from all of those. Of course, it's a little bit too much here. So sometimes the auto option is not working fine, but for this image it works pretty much okay. And we have also the dusk shot that I almost forgot about, which is also interesting. Obviously, all of those need to have some color balance to it in order to get the right amount of colors and exposure by preserving the natural ambience look, which is this. So kind of before and after, we get our whites back to the couch and the floor, and if the floor is a little bit overexposed or saturated, we can always go and reduce the saturation with here. But if we just want to do it to the floor, we can take and paint back our yellow color to the couches and the walls, but leave it saturated only in the floor, the reduction. Alright, so I think this is the best from all of those, but generally speaking, this is how you use HDRIs in order to create overcast or dusk or a sunset ambient light. Just remember that inverse gamma will give you much better contrast, so this is very important options that you guys should test. And overall multiplier and render multiplier are related to the exposure of how strong the HDRI in your image. Of course, the horizontal rotation is going to rotate your sphere, and you need to find the best spot to put your light in order to enter the room and fill it up with really nice illumination. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Share it with your friends. Happy HDRI testings. And Leslie, if you ask, you shall receive. All right, so have a good one. This is Alex, your VRay guy. Ciao.